greatest paradox of the 21st century is that, in the age of powerful technology, the biggest problem we face internationally are problems of the human soul. Well, Peters. This is Holly Hall from AskHollyHall.com. I was gifted at a young age with a human scientific mind/soul spiritual outlook on life, which I consider to be common sense. However, I discovered as I matured that my common sense was not so common. It was divine connection to source. I discovered astrology in my early 20s, and that opened up a Pandora's boxes of a modality, several modalities that I tap into when I coach and read the souls of my clients. I'll tell you why I have a problem with this saying. We face internationally are problems of the human soul. The human soul, that's the part that I'm challenged with, because there's the human and the soul. You're going to be surprised at my take on the human soul. If you want to take a look at the research of Bruce Lipton, you will know that recently, in the last 5 years, there's been extensive MRI research on the neural pathways, and that the information in how we navigate our lives is not from within. It is a connection to what's outside of us, and that's where the soul is. The soul is not in our bodies. The soul is not in our center. The soul is outside of us, and we transmit it through our portals, which I have well versed in the second part of my book, 101 Answers from the Universe, on Amazon. And the science is backed by neurobiologist Bruce Lipton. In this unprecedented times, we are forgetting about the soulness outside of the human construct. We are challenged with our mortality, that we could suffer, we could die, we could, or think we have control over that destiny. And I often get this kind of giggle, and yet knowing at the same time, and don't get me wrong, I don't think it's funny at all. But I often think that once we pass over, once we cross over and we're in the state of our soul, we're in the state of our soulness, because I don't believe that we're an individual soul. We're just in a state of soulness in which we all belong to, that we kind of laugh at how much we fight to resist that existence. We fight not to die. We struggle to stay alive in our humanness. And then when we're in our soulness, we're like, what took you so long to get here? Why did you resist this utopia, this amazing place to be? I've also recently had to download that, and again, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, many other thought leaders / scientists believe that we're in a matrix, that this is all an illusion, that this is a dream. I always resisted that construct or that concept, but recently I got a duality around that, and that I do believe that this is a played out reality that is not real. That's kind of an oxymoron, right? It's not real, but the suffering is real. So, like a movie, and we're supposed to witness and experience the suffering of the planet, animals on the planet, people on the planet, within our interpersonal existence, and yet the suffering really doesn't exist. But we're supposed to experience it in order to feel the suffering so that we become a person who doesn't produce suffering, enable suffering, or absorb suffering. I'm going to leave that for another podcast because I'm just going to let you sit with that. So even though the reality of an animal suffering for us to eat their carcass, their meat, their sinew, their fat, their muscle. I know, that sounds gross, but that's the reality of it, okay? That's what we're doing. The download that I got is that they're not suffering because it's just it's a dream. It's not real. It's it's not real, but it is, because the emotions that we feel, the feelings that we feel, the ability to know that this is wrong, that this isn't right, or it's ignorance. It's ignored. Ignorance is bliss, as a friend has told me many times, is real. Real enough to learn the lessons that we have to learn to become compassionate, unconditionally loving beings. And it's not that you become that unconditionally loving being, it's that you reconnect to the energy that is that. The energy that is unconditionally loving being, God, Source, Allah, Buddha, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't care. As in my book, 101 Answers from the Universe. So while we are in this unprecedented times, I ask you, your human body doesn't want to die. Your human body doesn't want to suffer. The brain wants to believe in this concept or that concept, this vaccine or that vaccine, this mask or that mask, this sanitization or that, this rule or that rule. At the end of the day, you're a soul. You're a soul living in and existing in a body. Immortality is the negation of death. We do not usually speak about innatality, about having not yet been born. Yet this is something we would have to regard as the other aspect of the human soul. We are just as unborn as we are immortal. Rudolf Steiner. You might want to back that up and read it again. We are the unborn, the born, and then the dead, which is actually the unborn again. Think about that. Never does the human soul appear so strong as when it forgoes revenge and dares to forgive an injury. Edwin Hubble Chapin. We have to remember the soul. We have to remember that that is our existence. So when we're in this nanosecond of a lifetime, we are only a particle of the big picture. What are you doing with this particle of the big picture? Are you living in fear? Is that creating suffering? What are you doing to make a difference? Not in achievement, but in endurance of the human soul does it show its divine grandeur and its alliance with the infinite. You are that infinite. Namaste.